Welcome back, America. We're here with a good friend, Brian Mast, who's the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Representatives. There you go, brother. And that is a big, big responsibility. He's an Afghan veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He's my congressman in Florida, I'm proud to say. So, Brian Mast, are you getting pretty much the information you want to get about the Venezuelan operations? I mean, you may not be getting them while the operations are going on, of course. But if you inquire about something, are you able to get pretty much the information that you want?
Yes. So over the Thanksgiving holiday, I was down in a number of places in the Caribbean, getting information on this, meeting with service members that were down there conducting operations, of which I had many positive things to say about what it is that they had to say. For any member of the House of Representatives, if they want to go travel down to Florida and go to Southcom and get a brief about the operations that are going on there directly from Southcom, they could have that take place. There are a myriad of options for members of the House to go out there and get information.
Are you being stonewalled? I know every member of Congress thinks they should be commander-in-chief. I know every member of Congress thinks they should be the commander of an operation or a general or an admiral. I get it. The egos are massive and so forth, but that's not the way the Constitution's supposed to work, really. I mean, basic information, knowledge about what's taking place, that's certainly understandable. The role of Congress is legislative, to oversee executive branch actions in terms of the institution of legislation and the effectuation of legislation. The role of Congress is not to steal the powers of the executive branch and make decisions about whether war is made. You have the power to declare war. You don't have the power to make war. What do you think about that?
A number of things. So one, let's just point to the system that is the partisan system of the House of Representatives and the Senate. You have reporters that wait outside of our SCIFs. That's where we get our classified information, just waiting to ask the members of the House, hey, what were you told inside of that classified briefing, which is should be moronic to anybody that somebody's going to ask you what you just heard in that classified briefing. But that's how leaky the House of Representatives is. There's just people waiting to ask you about that. And people either leak the information on purpose or they slip because they're just not paying attention. Either one puts our service members in danger, but they have option to get the information that they need. The last thing that you want is members of Congress going out there and planning the military operations. I don't think anything could be worse for our service members in uniform. Now, as it relates to the power of the president has every bit of Article 2 authority to go out there and protect the homeland of the United States of America from this very imminent threat. Not just an imminent, I wouldn't just call it an imminent threat. This has been a pervasive threat going on year after year, decade after decade. And the president finally said, he's had enough. We're not going to be a part of this situation where you have, maybe a dozen law enforcement boats throughout an area of the Caribbean that's being combated by hundreds of narco drug trafficking boats in a system that they know they're never going to be able to keep up on. So he did what? He brought the American military, the Ford Battle Group, to protect the homeland of the United States directly in the Gulf of America. There's no better use for our carrier battle group than directly protecting our people from this imminent threat that is in place, this imminent and proven pervasive threat.
Very well said. I as just a pedestrian American citizen here who loves my country looking at this, the idea that the Democrats and a few of these Republicans, that the media are so desirous of trying to cripple these operations, of trying to distract the Secretary of War, of trying to demean the commander-in-chief. Don't our enemies see this? Doesn't this undermine the operation to some extent? The Maduro, the dictator, the communist dictator, and his supporters, whether in Iran or Cuba or China or Russia, they're probably figuring, we have an inside assistant here. We have the media, the Democrat Party, and some of these Republicans. So wouldn't this help prolong the situation?
The work of protecting America is not easy. It's always dangerous. It's often deadly. It's a situation where there are very few that want to do it and even less that are capable of doing it. And you layer that upon exactly what you were just pointing out. You have a media that wants us to broadcast everything that we're going to do before we do it. That couldn't be more stupid. It's definitely a great way to put our service members in danger. You have members of the House and the Senate that want to go out there and decide that they're going to be the generals and decide how the operations are going to take place. That couldn't be worse for our service members. And then you have this handful of individuals that were making those videos. And what were they trying to do with their video? They were trying to create revolt within the United States Armed Forces in this place where, again, the work is dangerous and deadly. They wanted revolt in there because of their politics.
When we come back, I want to return to that in connection with Venezuela and our other military operations when you have 6 members of the House or Senate who abuse and exploit the service that they had in our country, whether military intelligence, to literally undermine our country and give aid and comfort to the enemy, because that's exactly what they did.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.